Hello, my name is Vincent Cupertino, and I will be discussing engine preventive maintenance in the Piper Seminole today. We will discuss the following topics. Discuss the 14 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 43, the type of engine the Piper Seminole has, and the type of maintenance you may be able to do, and if you should do it. All right. So understand the Code of Federal Regulations. According to 14 Code of Regulations, Part 43, Maintenance, Preventive Maintenance, Rebuilding, and Alteration, the holder of a pilot certificate may perform specified preventive maintenance on any aircraft owned or operated by that pilot as long as the aircraft is not used under 14 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 121, 127, 129, or 135. So it's good to note that if we are doing preventive maintenance, it is on our own airplane and it's not used commercially, I should say. All right, so diving deeper into the 14 Code of Federal Regulations, you need to first understand that the authorized preventive maintenance cannot involve complex assembly operations. So again, this is fairly simple stuff that essentially saying anyone could do. We're not getting too far into the airplane. Right, knowing that, second, you should carefully review the Code of Federal Regulations, Appendix A, Subpart C, the Preventive Maintenance section, which provides a list of authorized preventive maintenance work that an owner or pilot may perform. So it gives you the detailed list. Some things today that we could do for the Seminole or specifically for the engine that I'll touch on briefly. Lubrication. So lubrication not requiring disassembly other than removal of non-structural items such as cowlings, replacing spark plugs inside spark plug gap clearance, replacing any hose connection except hydraulic connections, replacing prefabricated fuel lines, cleaning or replacing fuel and oil strainers or filter elements. So those are the items that apply directly to the engine. That's preventive maintenance that we could do as pilots. So after that, you should really conduct a self-analysis, right? After knowing what preventive maintenance you are allowed to do, should you actually be able to do it? Can you perform that work safely and to a satisfactory level? And then finally, if you do any preventive maintenance, you will need to make an entry in the appropriate logbook or record system in order to document the work done. That entry must include a description of the work performed or references to data that are acceptable to the administrator, the date of completion, the signature, certificate number, and kind of certificate held by the person performing the work. And then that signature constitutes approval for return to service only for the work performed. So any work that you did that day that you do sign off on is only for that work being performed, nothing else. So if another issue arises or comes up on the next flight or the next pre-flight, that is not resolved at that point in time. All right, so it's a pretty high level overview of the 14 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 43. All right, so now the Seminole engine, we have two Lycoming engines, 10-360-B1G6. They are fuel injected 4-cylinder direct drive horizontally opposed air cooled engines. Now, looking at preventive maintenance, I did have to do some additional research. So the two main publications that I used was the FAA safety publication and the Lycoming Operator's Manual. The publication I really highly recommend you all reading. It gives, again, a high-level overview of the Code of Federal Regulations, and then it gives you a proposed checklist of what to do for each part of the airplane and what preventive maintenance that the pilot can do. And then the Lycoming Operator's Manual. So that actually gives you the detailed descriptions of the work that can be done to the engine and how it should be done. So highly recommend you read both of those. Let's continue at this time. So main tasks that we can accomplish as pilots is really cleaning and checking for cracks, making sure everything is secure. Again, we're not doing anything that's too complex. That is the point of preventive maintenance, something that we should be able to do safely. Something to note when doing preventive maintenance, it would be wise to utilize a checklist to know what you have checked and when. Keeping detailed records can help you move forward, knowing what you've checked and when, so to check something else the next time, or to see how often you are checking something or cleaning something. It's always good to know. All right, so again, with flying an airplane, we're not talking about pre-flight in this case. We're not talking about continuously running the plane. We're just talking about some preventive maintenance items that you can perform on the engine. And we'll dive into some of those now, and really at a high level. So if you have any questions, please feel free to add them in the comments. So first things first, we got to remove the engine cowling, clean and check for cracks, loose fasteners, or damage. Um, Check engine oil for quantity and condition. Change oil and oil filter. Check screens. Check oil temperature sensing unit for leaks, security, broken wires. Check oil lines and fittings for condition, leaks, security, and evidence of chafing. Check oil cooler for condition, damage, dirt, air blockage, security leaks, and winterization plate if applicable. Then go ahead and clean the engine. So remove, clean, and check spark plugs for wear. Re-gap and reinstall plugs moving top to bottom and bottom to top of cylinders. Be sure to gap and torque plugs to the manufacturer specifications. Now, in the Lycoming Operator's Manual, there's a really good section about spark plugs that I found, I mean, just interesting in general, something that we could do for preventive maintenance. It gives you a step-by-step of how to check those spark plugs. So once again, I really recommend reading that. Next, we can check magnetos for security, cracks and broken wires or insulation. Check ignition harness for chafing, crack insulation, and cleanliness. Check cylinders for loose or missing nuts and screws, cracks around cylinder hold down studs, and broken cooling fins. Check rocker box covers for evidence of oil leaks and loose nuts or screws. Remove air filter and tap gently to remove dirt particles. Replace the air filter. Check all air inlet ducts for condition, no air leaks, holes, and so on. Check intake seals for leaks, fuel stains, and check clamps for security. Check condition of priming lines and fittings for leaks, fuel stains, and check clamps for security. Check condition of exhaust stacks, connections, clamps, gaskets, muffler, and heat box for cracks, security, condition, and leaks. Check condition of fuel lines for leaks, fuel stains, and security. Drain at least 1 pint of fuel from each fuel filter, each fuel tank sump, and any other aircraft fuel drain into a clean, transparent container. Check for water, dirt, wrong type of fuel, and any other type of contamination. Visually check the vacuum pump and lines for missing nuts, cracked pump flanges, and security. Check crankcase, breather tubes, and clamps for obstructions and security. Check crankcase for cracks, leaks, and missing nuts. Check engine mounts for cracks or loose mountings. Check engine baffles for cracks, security, and foreign objects. Check wiring for security, looseness, broken wires, and condition of insulation. Check firewall and firewall seals. Check generator or alternator and starter for security and safety of nuts and bolts. Check brake fluid for level and propeller type, or proper type, excuse me. Lubricate engine controls, propeller mixture, and throttle. Check alternate air source, or carburetor heat to ensure that the door has a good seal when closed. Check door operation, reinstall engine cowling at that point in time. So as you can see, I mean, we're going through this long list of preventive maintenance items that we can perform. Mainly it's just checking and cleaning different things. So as you would with your pre-flight, for example, you are checking and looking for any fuel stains, any drips underneath the airplane. And if you do see those, you know, that's a good time to perform preventive maintenance on your airplane. Go back and open the cowling, check the engine, see if anything is visually dirty, visually unclean, and know that you can and have the ability to fix it. Now, should you do all of these items? I'm not saying that. I think for me personally, I haven't had experience with many engines in general, whether it's car or aviation. So my recommendation would be to, at least for the first time, before you feel comfortable performing preventive maintenance, I would say do it with someone, do it with the IA, do it with an inspector that has the ability to perform all of these without even thinking. Another recommendation I would make is check YouTube. I've used YouTube before for preventive maintenance on things like cars. Now, granted, that's not always the safest option, but it gives you a starting point. And if you feel comfortable in performing that preventive maintenance, you do and are legally able to do so. So I think at that point in time, you should feel free and move forward. But once again, it's all fairly high level, meaning you're just checking, viewing for cracks, and making sure everything's clean. So that being said, I think it's very possible to do all this preventive maintenance, and it's even recommended to do it. Save you a lot of money doing preventive maintenance on your engine as long as you do it correctly, rather than that engine, um, you know, having poor performance and having issues in flight. So once again, I really do recommend the FAA safety publication and the light coming operator's manual to give you ideas of what you can do and then how to do it. Right. Then finally, for my works cited, I use the Piper Seminole operating handbook, the Lycoming operator's manual, and the maintenance aspects of owning your own aircraft, that FAA safety publication that I mentioned earlier. Thank you for your time. Today we discussed engine prevention maintenance, understand the Code of Federal Regulations, and then finally the Seminole engine and some prevention maintenance that we can do. Thank you.